Puis, comment ça se passe dans la classe?
Silence. Bien.
Oui, c'est une féminocratie ici, tu vas voir.
Vous insinuez quoi, là?
Je n'insinue rien.
Depuis ton arrivée, on est 50% plus d'hommes.
Vous voulez un lift?
Un quoi?
All right, so I formally apologize to the Canadians. I'm sorry I've been talking so much shit.
You have been talking
you.
a lot of shit about Canadians.
Well, only because it's one of those, like, yeah, seriously, what are you going to do?
Yeah, they're all the way up there. Who cares? Yeah.
Dude, they got the Mounties.
Yeah, they're coming down here.
That's
I
even
know.
hilarious.
Like, I live in Texas. We're not scared of guys on horses. We have our own guys on horses.
Mounties, I see the Mounties and Mooses riding horses protecting the Canadians.
We all have our own horses down here. Come on, doesn't everybody know that? We all have horses. We all wear cowboy hats, got 6 guns. I don't know about you, but yeah.
Dudley Do-Right. That was no man to fuck with.
Yeah, I guess.
No fictional man to fuck
I
with.
know. I'm surprised you still remember his name.
But I keyed Canada. I'm using a Canadian comedian too, but this new film, Monsieur Lazhar,
Monsieur,
which is the Canadian entry in the for the Oscar
that
Best Foreign
translates
Language
to
film,
Mr. Lizard.
the 84th Academy Awards. It actually made the short list, the actual nominees. It did not win, but wow, I gotta admit, this was a really, really solid film. And I in the past, if I'm correct, I don't think I've been the world's biggest fan of Quebecois films, I believe it was.
hey, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Sure. I'm probably so wrong that somewhere listening to this, a very steamy Canadian just broke the tension by going, Cyrus, you're
pissing
such
off.
a dumbass.
You're pissing off. Some guy's going, Louis Vuitton.
Such a dumbass, eh? Yeah, right. Sorry, I had too much back bacon. All right, so in this story, it follows, the titular character who has just moved to Quebec from Algeria. He's an immigrant, and he's trying to get refugee status because apparently his family in Algeria was murdered. Or at least that's what he's saying and trying to prove to the court.
Shit, all you gotta do is say you're from Algeria, and that's pretty much like, I'm sure that happened.
You think so. You think that would be the case.
Trying to prove that he can't go back. His life would be in danger. And the film's intermittently, we see little bits of this as this builds up. This serves mainly as just a backdrop and an entry point into his character and how this drama that's unfolding at the school that he finds a job at as a new teacher, how his feelings intersect with it and what's going on. He gets a job at this school where an elementary school teacher had hung themselves in their own classroom. So one of the students coming back to the class, with a big thing of milk to like give out to the students, put on their desks or whatever, sees her hanging from the fucking rafters of the ceiling. What a cunt.
I know, exactly. That's all I thought.
Yeah.
What a bitch. Good, I'm glad she hung herself. She should have set herself on fire, too. She's going to do that to the poor children.
But he comes in, manages to talk his way into a job, and, all these kids who are admittedly kind of freaked out. I mean, there's 2 in particular that are definitely the primary children. There's a little girl who's also saw the body as well hanging there, and a boy who was kind of the class troublemaker, who is the one who found it. And they're both really disturbed, but they're both dealing with it in extremely different ways.
All the kids are dealing with it because apparently that teacher was a very, she was a likable teacher. They all liked her.
But as it unfolds, the film unfolds, it becomes clear that what this is really about is about the relationship between teachers and students and the problems that teachers have with forming a solid relationship with students anymore because they've been given so many barriers towards any sort of real connection with students now. I mean, the film makes a point of calling out, like, you can't even hug a kid, without getting in big trouble. Right. You're like, whoa, can we all take a step back and say how fucked up that is? That as a society, we've decided if you hug a kid, you must be a child molester. Right. And I think that's really the largest point this movie is trying to make.
It is. And I mean, it is the heart and soul of this film. And, I also love the aspect of it. Just, it deals with not only this teacher, but these students just dealing with the idea of death and how it really affects them, and how it affects their lives, and especially when they're like, trying to communicate not only to their parents but their teachers, and to each other, these kids, how they communicate with, how it truly affects them in a sense of like, they're questioning, why did this person do that? And it's really endearing to see this teacher kind of trying to understand this and trying to like really make it a point to say, hey, telling the faculty and the principal, hey, these kids are really trying to reach, but it's like we're trying to hide this. We're trying to like brush this under the rug, and it's not doing anybody any good.
One little girl says at one point, I think the problem is that all the parents are trying so hard to protect us, but they're just trying to protect themselves, really. We want to talk about this.
Yeah.
And at every turn, the teacher's like, no, that's inappropriate. And Lazhar is constantly on the side of like, look, these kids want to discuss this. What is wrong with all of you people that you just want to do nothing but pretend like this didn't even happen?
Mm-hmm. Man, I'm a sucker for these type of movies. And I didn't get to see this one, but how well do they pull off the part where he teaches them to sing classic rock?
No, it's funny because like you just watch the trailer for this and hear the outside, you think, yeah, it's going to be something like there's going to have that element to it, and it really isn't that kind of film at all.
Yeah,
it dances around every cliche that is in this genre of this. I mean, really deftly, and a lot of that has to do with this.
That means he doesn't drive up on a motorcycle wearing a leather jacket. Mm-hmm. He doesn't say, used to call me Crazy Joe, now you can call me Batman.
A lot of this has to do with the lead actor, Mohammed Saeed Falag, who plays the lead character, Lazhar, and he is a really apparently well-known actor and comedian, and he
looks like a comedian.
Yeah, he has one of those faces.
He has one of those. Who's that other asshole that was always dancing around the award shows and
Roberto Benigni.
Roberto Benigni. Yeah, there's something
Yeah.
about him that just you can see both those. I wouldn't be surprised those guys came from the same school of comedy, but I mean, there's no comedy to this, at all. But seeing this guy, I mean, you couldn't help but like pay attention to him the whole time he was acting, which I thought he was brilliant. Just like the students, actually, I was really shocked by how good these child actors were. In this movie, like they're dealing with some pretty like heavy subject matter as far as just communicating their emotions to each other, and like when you see these kids interact with each other, it feels so natural. It really does. It feels like you're honestly like hanging out with, not that I do this, but like if you're hanging out in the schoolyard, hanging out with kids, having them, talk to each other in a way that is believable. And it doesn't seem like an adult, wrote it, So I was surprised, but, there was a part of me that kept wondering, is that cute little girl going to turn into a vampire at some point in this movie? Because, I can't help. There's something scary because I had no idea what this movie was even going to be about. All I knew was the title, and that's because I asked the lady who was repping this at the screening, like, what the hell is this? And she told me, but when it starts out, like, with the kids playing outside, it's snowing, but there was something really creepy about it. So, I mean, when it gets to the point where... You
thought it was a sequel to Let the
Right
Right One.
I really did. I was like, I don't know, but I'm scared right now. I'm scared of all these kids.
The teacher committed suicide because one of her students is a vampire.
Exactly. So, so as soon as you see the lady hanging from her classroom, like, oh, shit, it's going to be one of those movies.
And it was funny. I was so tired that morning. I was really exhausted. I was like, I hope this is interesting.
It's that 9 a.m. movie.
And it's funny. That wakes your ass up.
Oh,
right
yeah.
It was like, that was not what I was expecting to see. Exactly. And honestly, it keeps at a real steady pace. There's constantly small reveals all the way through about all these different characters. I mean, even though it is really a big cast, even though there's like just the two main kids, pretty much every kid in that class has tiny mini arcs that are interesting. And that all like have to do with they're all elements of the bigger discussion that the movie wants to have.
And the director's great at focusing on these kids when it's time to focus on them, because what I love about this movie that I think a lot of movies suffer from, involving kids, groups of kids, is that you always want to see like those individual quirks about these specific kids that make you like them, or you like, oh, I knew that kid, being in the class with them. And this movie has all that. They got the fat kid who's always like, trying to impress the teacher, I guess, or but I mean, they got the kid,
but he can really sing.
Yeah, exactly. He has some kind of special hidden talent, or the kid is always sleeping in class, Yeah. And I just love that they paid attention to those things, because that's what really made the story work. Is you got really involved with these kids because you felt like they were real kids dealing with a real problem, and I mean,
so often what holds a movie back that wants to do that is that it's hard to get really good kid actors.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, so often like they might find a kid who looks the part, but when it comes to acting, they just can't.
Shockingly,
when it comes to acting, they just can't.
Shockingly across the board with all these kids, they were all great in their own little ways. Yeah,
that can make a movie.
And you never, even though it is charming, it only lets the movie's subject matter only lets it be but so charming.
Yeah.
I mean, because ultimately the whole thing has a somber tone to it because of what it's talking about. I mean, it's constantly talking about dealing with grief and death. I mean, as it goes along and it reveals that this guy's whole family died in a fucking fire that was a murder, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
He smiles a lot for a guy. Wait a minute, he did it.
I couldn't help but think about that. I was like, maybe this guy's gonna end up being the vampire for all I know. I don't know, but
and these little
that'd be a great story.
There's another school teacher who clearly wants to like hook up with him, and she's like, I mean, she's cute and everything, but she's just too anxious. You know what I mean? It's just like, you ever met a girl like that? Like you're interested in it first, but then they're just a little too excited about it.
Where she already bought her ring. Yeah, she already bought her engagement ring or wedding ring. It's like, all right, let's do this. No, you're right about that. But I mean, you know what? This was a big surprise for me, and it's nice to see a movie like this, especially with all these amazing blockbuster movies of shit I always geek out about and love. Right. It's always nice to see like a movie like this come out, because it really does make you appreciate the fine art of acting and drama, and just
a real film.
And just seeing kids act this great is and the camaraderie that some of these kids have too is just really great and endearing and
thought provoking.
And that's the biggest thing. Yeah, it really does make you think. It puts you in a situation where you're like, man, how would I deal with this if I was a fucking kid that saw that, or knew more than what the adults know about what happened? It's one of those things too. So, I mean, for me, I'll just go ahead and give my rating.
Go ahead, do it.
I'm going to give it a full price. Yeah, as far as like these independent films go, I mean, this is by far the best one I've seen in a while. So
yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's funny, even something being nominated for best foreign film. I mean, I'll give anything with that a chance. I made a point of saying I was going to see this one if for no other reason because of that. But I tell you, usually it's only maybe 3 out of the 5 that are actually really good.
True.
You watch that other 2 and you're like, what the fuck?
Nothing but dog shit come out there.
Yeah, exactly. But this is one of those ones that, like, if it had won, I would have been like, yeah, fucking A.
Well, dang, I mean, it's you guys have praised this like one of the highest praised movies from the two of you guys. I'm just wondering what beat it.
I actually don't know the answer to that, but if y'all just spitball for a second, I can find out.
Well, so I mean, being a foreign film, is it all subtitled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You got to learn to read.
Sorry. Oh, A Separation, which we still haven't seen.
A Separation.
Which everybody raves about.
I know.
They're like, I can't believe you guys didn't see A Separation. You're clearly racist. I'm like,
no, what? Actually, I was reading the premise. I was dying to see that movie. Yeah. It just showed it at an inconvenient time.
Yeah.
And then they didn't make it available to us like everybody else did with their movies.
It did screen here for critics. It was versus something else.
Yeah, so I'm saying it screened at an inconvenient time.
Yeah.
So once we get on that, we'll let you.
It's coming out on DVD. We'll see it.
Yeah, we'll see it.
I'll talk about it on remote viewing, I promise. But this was definitely something. It was we liked Bullhead too. That was another good one that came out the same for a foreign language film. But yeah, absolutely solid film, a full price movie. One last thing about this, I will say. A lot of films that have a point to make like this, they reach a point where they just start hammering at it. And this movie never really does that. It just parses out the pieces just right along the way that you never feel like they're just staring you down.
And for some reason, because of that, it's funny you mentioned that, because when the movie does end, you almost don't want it to end. You're like, no, I'm ready to for that anvil to hit me in the head to let me know what I should know. You know,
do you
as
guys
far as like it's all nicely wrapped up, and I like how they ended it. I thought it was very non-traditional storytelling.
Like the lights go up, and a representative from the film comes out and sits cross-legged on the floor and goes, "Okay, guys, let's talk about death. Who has some feelings?"
I think it's cool. Did you guys see fucking?
Good thing you wouldn't be there in that audience. Death is awesome.
Hey, j'ai vu des photos d'Alger sur Internet. C'est blanc et bleu, hein?
C'est pour ça qu'on appelle Alger la Blanche.
Ici, c'est plus Montréal, la slotch.